So LeBron James's son, his name is Bronny. He, to the surprise of no one, is a basketball phenom like his father. He's 18 years old. He's an incoming freshman at USC. He's supposed to play basketball there, obviously. He was working out at USC's gym, and he had a terrible, tragic thing happen. He suffered cardiac arrest. And there's tons of speculation about what caused this, and I think it's valid speculation. There's been a lot of pushback certainly from the left, and even some people on the right saying we shouldn't speculate about what might have happened to this 18-year-old, otherwise healthy elite athlete who suffered a heart attack. A teenager suffered a heart attack, and we shouldn't speculate about what happened. And I want to address that specifically because the particular claim that I find to be, well, infuriating is that it's irresponsible for us to speculate, and that's entirely wrong. So let's talk about exactly what happened and what we know and why it's not just okay and perfectly responsible to talk about this but the fact that it's a public service to do so. This is what his family said in a statement. They said yesterday, while practicing, Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He is now in stable condition and no longer in ICU. We ask for respect and privacy for the James family, and we will update media when there is more information. LeBron and Savannah wish to publicly send their deepest thanks and appreciation to the USC medical and athletic staff for their incredible work and dedication to the safety of their athletes. I can't imagine, actually, as a parent, how awful they must, what an awful time their family must be having. This is a tragedy, regardless of what caused it. And I think it's important that we all establish that from the outset, that you can, I mean, my heart aches to think of a mother of a teenage son, like experiencing her son almost dying, cardiac arrest. This is going to have repercussions for the rest of his life. But people are obviously questioning, what is this from? An 18-year-old boy, an elite athlete who has access to all the medical care in the world that he needs. His father is, one of the best NBA basketball players of all time. What happened? What happened? And I think we all know what happened. We all know what we're thinking, at least. It's just a matter of whether people are afraid to say it or not. We're all wondering, did Bronny James get the COVID vaccine? And the reason that we're wondering this is because studies show that the COVID vaccine, especially in young men, Bronny James's age, causes inflammation of the heart, myocarditis, that can lead to cardiac arrest. This is no longer speculation. This is no longer just a phenomenon that we're observing, that we are waiting to see if a pattern emerges. There have been observational studies now that show us that this is the case. And you have to wonder, I mean, LeBron James publicly announced when he got the vaccine himself. He announced it this was back in 2021 that he announced that he got it. He said, I was a skeptic at first, but then I did my research and I learned, which sounds exactly like something Dr. Fauci would want him to say to try to get more people vaccinated. You have to wonder if Bronny James did get the COVID vax, and if so, when he got it, how many boosters he's gotten, because it's critical information. It's critical that other people, that we know the repercussions of getting a medical procedure that we are still being socially, if not legally, coerced into getting. And some Republicans are saying it's irresponsible to speculate about this, and I could not disagree more for the following reasons. First of all, there are many possible reasons why Bronny James could have gone into cardiac arrest. No one's sitting here saying that it's definitely the COVID vax. I know that's what popped into my mind. I think it's what popped into your mind. I think a lot of us would probably bet that the COVID vax played into this. I think we probably do think that that's the reason why. But no one's sitting here pretending that we've seen Bronny James's medical records. We're not pretending to know if he's vaxxed against COVID or how many times or how recently. We don't know that for a fact. But we do know that the reasons that an 18-year-old, otherwise healthy young man who is also an elite athlete, who is also the son of one of the highest level athletes in our country, meaning he has access to all the medical care, preventative and otherwise, that he could ever possibly need, that the other reasons are simply unlikely. The other reason, so one of the reasons that young men can have cardiac arrest or suffer cardiac arrest is if they overdose on drugs. That seems pretty unlikely that this would be drug-related since he was performing at an elite level. You'd think that that would be something that would be evident in his appearance, in his performance, if he were a drug addict. But it's possible. It's not impossible. He also could have an undiagnosed heart defect. We know that this does happen across the country a handful of times every year, where usually pretty amateur high school athletes, usually teenage boys, die unexpectedly based on an undiagnosed heart defect. That could be the case. I personally find that to be very unlikely, given the fact that Bronny James had access to all the medical care that he could ever need in high school through his father at college. You'd think that he would have been screened for something like that. It's possible. It's not impossible. Doesn't seem likely to me. He could have suffered from commotio cordis. That is the rare occurrence. It's an electrical issue with the heart, where if you have impact on your chest wall at just the right moment in the beat of a heart, that it can cause your heart to go into cardiac arrest. That happens almost never. And even though it is the prevailing narrative from the left on Twitter, it's almost certainly not the case. This is exactly what they said about Damar Hamlin too. Exactly what they said. It's almost certainly not the case. And the other reason, of course, is the COVID vaccine. So there we have the entertainment of many different issues. Could it be something even more obscure than that? It could, but if we're playing the game of percentages here, I think we all have a pretty good idea of the most likely cause of this. Now, are we ever going to know for a fact? Probably not. LeBron James is pretty far left. I highly doubt he's going to announce suddenly that his son was injured by the COVID vaccine because of the political backlash. I mean, he couldn't even bring himself to condemn China, communist China, for goodness sake. He's not going to go against the entire Democrat Party on the COVID vax. In addition to the fact that the medical personnel who were taking care of his son probably wouldn't admit to him even if they thought it was from the COVID vax. So are we ever really going to know? Probably not. But what we do know for a fact are these studies. I'd like to show this. This is element number 5. It says, heart attack, this is the title of it, heart attack deaths jumped sharply among U.S. adults in the second year of the COVID pandemic. Now, the headline itself is kind of funny because they say in the second year of the COVID pandemic, well, what happened in the second year? Well, it wasn't some difference in COVID. How come heart attacks didn't jump in the first year of COVID? Well, because in the second year of COVID, that was the first year of the COVID vaccine. Well, isn't that a coincidence? We also have element number 6, a new Nordic study that it actually followed up a little bit longer with young men who had gotten the COVID vaccine and found that there were almost 5 times as many cases of post-vaccine myocarditis than post-COVID myocarditis. Because this is something you'll hear from the left. You'll hear from the left that if there is a case of myocarditis, heart inflammation, that it's probably from the virus. It's because someone wasn't vaccinated to prevent them from having a serious outcome from COVID. But studies contradict that. Studies show that that's a false talking point, that's a lie. And if you narrow this down, to the age bracket that Bronny James falls into, 12 to 24-year-olds, then this study showed that you are 10 times more likely to suffer from post-vaccine myocarditis than to suffer from post-COVID myocarditis. Hi guys, it's Liz Wheeler. Don't forget to watch my show, The Liz Wheeler Show, every night at 7 p.m. on the First TV. You can download the free First TV app, or you can visit thefirsttv.com/Liz and start watching today.